Hello, everyone. I just wanted to give a shout out to everyone who's come in during off-stream hours, just to throw in a follow. I've been trying for quite a long time to reach 50 followers. That was a big goal for me, so I wanted to thank everyone for coming in and doing that. I did update on YouTube a while ago, all the videos, so between YouTube and the VODs, you should be able to watch anything if you're even just coming in and watching for the first time. What else did I want to say? Right. If you're watching on at an unusual hour, just because I don't happen to be streaming at a time that's convenient for you, you can still comment. You can send me an email at einderspell@proton.me. The email is down there. If you look at some of the links and stuff like that and information, there's a link to the email as well. So if you wanted to comment on a specific video or ones that we haven't done yet, or just chat about anything you like, feel free to email me there. And if you like, I could give you a shout out on stream, or we can keep it anonymous, whatever's comfortable for you. Because, you know, I get it. Twitch, sometimes we just want to lurk, right? Okay. Cheers. So we did it. We've left the room for an even bigger room. Hello, even bigger room. Fortunate for us, this bigger room, we won't be trapped. You might wonder, why are we searching for this book? Why? Why are we trying to complete our bookshelf collection? Well, there's no achievement or anything for it, not on the Switch. The Switch doesn't really do that. It's more of a Steam thing. So I would just like to have it. Well, why? I mean, when you finish the game, it's just game over, right? That's true. But I already have profiles with the game over. So maybe we just keep this one for walking around. We have one that's up on the surface for walking around. Maybe I want to keep one for walking around underneath the surface in the caves. I've been considering speedrunning this game. I won't be doing that right away, not until we've finished the longing, and then I would switch over to that, just because I feel like speedrunning is very different content than playing a game. So we'll reserve speedrunning till later. That gives me a reason to wanting to keep a file around. That way I can walk around, I can experiment with things. And just having all the books, the full collection, it would just feel right to have this kind of completed file. So we found a couple of pages so far, if you were watching on the intro. I'm actually, during the intro, not always playing. I'm here and there doing some last-minute setup. Speaking of, yeah, because of that, we stumbled back and picked up a page. I was away from the monitor, but I saw we walked over it. So now, I'm just hoping there are certain books that are reserved to appear here in the Halls of Eternity. But because one book disappeared on us, I'm hoping it would have found its way here, perhaps. I think it would be nice, something as a way for a person to find lost things that they didn't pick up in a location that's not the friendliest. In hindsight, after I left the room, I left there, let's say, 6 hours ago. That lines up about right. 7? No, it was 6 hours. I could have instead walked home, and in those 6 hours, we could have advanced time far closer to our birthday. I didn't think about it. I was just considering the quest, the book. We must find the book. So I opted to save a bit of time and had the shade walk to the entrance here. I don't plan to walk too far. Just enough time to get a few pages, and if we don't see the book, well, we'll just abandon that quest. I did read somewhere that all of the 44 books that are in the game, they weren't all there at the very beginning. The first version of the game had less, and a few more were added over time, including the one to create the moss carpets. And the one book about the door behind the wall, the one that's sort of the clue to the location where we were stuck. All of that, of course, was added later as well. And that's in reference to the ending that we're working towards next. We've found 2 of 3 crystals. We can assume it's 3 crystals quite easily at this point. You may have caught a glimpse of one when I was going through screenshots, but also because, more importantly, we've found 2. So it would just make sense that there would be a 3rd. We did also find a painting, and we found some interesting books and a key at the other locations, but the one that was in common was the crystal. I think before we finish this adventure for this ending, we'll go back. We'll have another talk with the face after we've gotten all 3 of the crystals, and it'll make more sense speaking to him, because he speaks kind of cryptically what everything means by what he says, and then understanding it all, then we'll go forward for that secret ending. But given the trip today, and then we will return home, because I can't imagine anywhere else where that book would be. But we'll be spending the rest of the time back at home until we've reached the birthday. We probably won't reach that today, but we will our next day. This was by no means any attempt to try to prolong time, to stay in the longing just that much longer. It just happened. But those kind of accidents, I think it being as natural as it was, that's kind of, when you want to spend time, that's the best way to spend it, with those happy little accidents, I guess you can call them. find one more item. Would be nice if it was a book. And if I don't find it, on Steam, the developer has left an email, mainly for a couple of people who have had issues with their save files. Being a PC game, probably far easier to modify a save file. On the Switch, all those things are behind a wall, which for most people who are on a legal Switch, you don't have access to any of those files, really. You can put them on an SD card, sure, but then how do you modify them? How do you look at that data unless you have some sort of dev kit or something like that? You really can't. So I don't think the developer could do anything for the save file itself, but perhaps they can incorporate it into another patch. There are some patches that were released not too long ago, and I haven't updated to the current version, namely because there's another profile I have right here in the Halls of Eternity, something that we're going to visit when we finish this series, where I've had a character walking for over 2 years now, and just to visit it, just to see what that character is up to, wandering the Halls of Eternity for 2 years now, to see, have they reached the end? Possibly not. But I know the developer has added some things where if you're walking in the other direction, out, and then you exit the game, then when you come back, in a very short time, your shade will have left and has returned home without having to walk. You know, if you had spent hundreds of days, perhaps, and you decide, no, I don't want to do this, I want to go back, that it'll be shorter. I was reading about when the developer was taking this game to game conventions, trade shows, and trying to build interest, trying to build a presence, build a community, so that way when the game is released, people are ready to buy it. And a lot of people who were picking up the game just to walk around and just explore, they would come here. And you can imagine being the person who shows up to look at this game. Here somebody has been walking through the Halls of Eternity for 5-10 minutes, picking up that controller and just being like, well, what do I do? I'm in this white room and walking to the left, nothing's happening. I'm walking to the right, nothing's happening. Just put the controller down and walk away. You know, what kind of game is that? So the developer found they often had to reset the game to the very beginning from people getting stuck here. Well, they weren't stuck. It was just a time commitment a new player wasn't ready for. It's funny though, with that experience, he didn't change anything about the game just from that. He didn't make it shorter when you exit. And I don't know for sure if that's the case, that it has been implemented on the current patch, because I don't want to, not yet. You know, I've had a game invested 2 years worth, granted it's idle time, but that was time spent. I want to see what happens when I load that save file. And then we'll update. Maybe. I say maybe because for the sake of speedrunning, he may have fixed some glitches that may be useful in a speedrun environment. Typically when a game gets a patch, I try to avoid the patch notes. I'm just like, okay, you've done something, you've changed something, I don't need to know the details. And that's because certain games, such as an MMO or Minecraft or something, I feel like those games, half of the experience is the exploration, discovering things that you didn't know existed. You know, when you first pick up a game for the very first time, you're not handed a manual telling you where everything is, or where to go and how to shop and all the best strategies. You want to just jump in and figure it out for yourself. There are people who like to know that information, and there are places that sell strategy guides and maps and all that stuff, but that's kind of an extra thing. So if that's the kind of player you are, then when a game releases an update, why would you read the patch notes? It's kind of defeating the purpose. The reason why we have patch notes is for the sake of developers. These are video games the industry has evolved from software engineering, and as software engineers and any engineers, you survive by documentation. So if updates have been made, changes have been made, it needs to be documented. Let the buyer beware. So if there was a product that was known to be defective in some ways, with the update notes, you will know what's been changed and why it's safe to now buy that product. And just from that mechanic, it's carried over into video games as well, because the game is still technically a software and it's still a bug. And so when the bugs have been fixed, we put them in the patch notes. A weird side effect of that, though, is we also put in all the details about this new thing was added at this location in this specific place. These walls have been changed to prevent people from wall hacking over them. You know, it's telling you everything that's been changed, including new content. So you could just read where all the new content is, how to find it, and you would spoil everything. There's nothing to explore because it's all written out for you. I just think it weird that the community on the whole lives by patch notes, but yet they don't read them when they start a game brand new. So in that same way, with the longing, I don't exactly know what the patch does to the game. I've not looked for the patch notes. Being on the Switch, you don't see them. The Switch would just allow you to update your software. If you haven't changed your options, it'll just update your software for you automatically. And you're none the wiser. You might see a different splash screen or something, or update version, whatever, when you start the game. But unless you're used to the title screen, you probably won't even notice that there has been a change. So I can do some digging around on websites and such, perhaps through Steam itself, to see what those patch notes are. And the main thing I'm looking for are bugs that would be of an aid in speedrunning. were some, but I think I will get into more detail about those some other time. This would be a great place for a swimming pool. It's got the nice polished floor. I can imagine though, trying to treat the water. You could say you'd be there for an eternity. So I have 4 new pages to draw some art with. What would we draw? I could draw the fields that we had seen, the hermit. There's an interesting picture in our collection. It's a tulip. Very specific. It's the only one with a very specific flower. Tulip? Why a tulip? The Shade hasn't seen one. Not in our playthrough, in any case, not so far. We haven't seen one in any animation. I don't think there's any reference to one in any of the books. Nothing we've read so far. That picture is a bit of a mystery. Oh, I had a thought. Okay, so we were watching Fields of Rape, right? It's not that kind of rape if you're seeing this for the first time and it's out of context. It's German word. It's kind of a field of a glowing, like wheat. If you heard it in German, it's more like a rap. It's not rape, but that's just how we would say it in English. So the hermit, that character who's he's kind of this old wise man up on the mountain, who looks like he's dead already, but come back from the dead. What if that's an homage to Zarathustra? What if that is Zarathustra, the crazy old man who lives up in the mountains? And he's dead, but he's come back from the dead. We haven't finished yet, so I don't know if Zarathustra dies and his body runs around, but that would be funny. The hermit. Because he is like a hermit from the last part we were just reading. Actually, I could do this. Should be out of here soon. Leaving just seems to take longer than when we get here. I guess it's because the little treats along the way. But you would think because we stopped to pick up the treats, wouldn't that make the walking in longer? Because technically we're not stopping. Why does it feel longer? I know I probably already answered my own question, but still, it doesn't satisfy my curiosity. But I don't think we'll be coming back here during this playthrough. Unless after I reach out to the developer and they tell me that the book would indeed be here, I just have to walk far enough. It's strange though, walking to a place that we can come back to whenever we want, and leaving it and then saying goodbye to this place, because perhaps we won't be back here again. I would definitely say that about that secret room. Goodbye to that place. Farewell. Just start reading right now. And then when we get home, we'll continue from there. Okay, so to catch up, Zarathustra he hasn't spoken with people in a long time. He hangs out with his animals and speaks with them, and his animals convinced him to go for a walk, to go out to the mountaintops. It's such a great day, and he did. And he told his animals, "Oh, I just want to be alone. I must make sacrifices." And it was just a ploy. He just wanted to be alone with his own thoughts, I guess. And while he was there, he was considering being a fisher of men. He wanted to attract someone to come up to his mountain, because it was not yet time for him to go down into the cities of people. He was saving that moment for something very special. And he just wants people to come visit him. And then the next chapter, he is visited by this other figure, somebody that we have already met with in the past. It might be the same old man he met at the very beginning of the first book. Possibly. And they traded some words, and then there was the shout of like somebody in the mountains saying for help. Perhaps there was some beast that set upon this person. We don't quite know. but the guest was told to stay there and to enjoy Zarathustra's honey or whatever, and go ahead, stay at my home. Hang out here. I'm going to figure out who this person screaming is all about, and I'm going to come back. We'll spend some time together. He seemed kind of reluctant. Zarathustra perhaps didn't want to talk with the guy, but the guy said, no, I'll stay here. So, right, chapter 63, Talk with the Kings. There, Zarathustra had been an hour on his way in the mountains and forests when saw at once a strange procession. Right on the path which he was about to descend came two kings walking, dragged with crowns and purple girdles and variegated like flamingos. They drove before them a laden ass. "What do these kings want in my domain?" said Zarathustra in astonishment to his heart. He hid himself hastily behind a thicket. When, however, the kings approached him, he said half aloud, like one speaking only to himself, "Strange, strange, how doth this harmonize? Two kings do I see, and only one ass." Thereupon the two kings made a halt. They smiled and looked towards the spot where the voice proceeded, and afterwards looked into each other's faces. "Such things do we also think among ourselves," said the king on the right, "but we do not utter them." The king on the left, however, shrugged his shoulders and answered, "That may perhaps be a goatherd, or an anchorite who hath lived too long among the rocks and trees. For no society at all spoileth, also good manners." "Good manners," replied angrily and bitterly the other king. "What then do we run out of the way of? Is it not good manners, or good society? Better verily to live among anchorites and goatherds than with our gilded, false, over-robed populace. Thou call it itself good society. Thou call it itself nobility. But there all is false and foul, above all the blood, thanks to the old evil diseases and worst cures. The best and dearest to me at present is still a sound peasant, coarse, artful, obstinate, and enduring. This is at present the noblest type. The peasant is at present the best, and the peasant type should be master. But it is the kingdom of the populace. I no longer allow anything to be imposed upon me. The populace, however, that meaneth hodgepodge. Populace hodgepodge. Therein is everything, and mixed with everything saint and swindler, gentleman and Jew, and every beast out of Noah's ark. Good manners. Everything is false and foul with us. No one knoweth any longer how to reverence. It is that, precisely, that we run away from. They all fulsome, unobtrusive dogs. They gild palm leaves. This loathing choketh me, that we kings ourselves have become false, draped and disguised with the old faded pomp of our ancestors. Showpieces for the stupidest, the craftiest, and whoever at present trafficketh for power. We are not the first men, and have nevertheless to stand for them. Of this imposture have we at last become weary and disgusted. From the rabble have we gone out of the way, from all those bawlers and scribe bowflies, from the traitor stench, the ambition fidgeting, the bad breath, aye, to live among the rabble, aye, to stand for the first men among the rabble. Loathing, 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 what doth it now matter about us kings? Thine own sickness seizeth thee, said here the king on the left. Thy loathing seizeth thee, my poor brother. Thou knowest, however, that someone heareth us. Immediately thereupon, Zarathustra, I'm just playing with Windows, Zarathustra, who had opened ears and eyes to this talk, rose from his hiding place, advanced towards the kings, and thus began. He who hearkeneth unto you, he who gladly hearkeneth unto you, is called Zarathustra. I am Zarathustra, who once said, "What doth it now matter about kings?" Forgive me, I rejoiced when ye said to each other, "What doth it matter about us kings?" Here, however, is my domain and jurisdiction. What may ye be seeking in my domain? Perhaps, however, ye have found on your way what I seek, namely the higher man. When the kings heard this, they beat upon their breasts and said with one voice, "We are recognized. With the sword of thine utterance severest thou the thickest darkness of our hearts. Thou hast discovered our distress. For lo, we are on our way to find the higher man, the man that is higher than we. Although we are kings, to him do we convey this ass. The highest man shall also be the highest lord on earth. There is no sore misfortune in all human destiny than when the mighty of the earth are not also the first men. Then everything becometh false, and distorted, and monstrous. And when they are even the last men, and more beast than man, then riseth the populace in honor. And at last saith even the populace virtue, I alone am virtue. What have I just heard? Answered Zarathustra. What wisdom in kings! I am enchanted, and verily I have already promptings to make a rhyme thereon. Even if it should happen to be a rhyme not suited for everyone's ears, I unlearned long ago to have consideration for long ears. Well then, well now. Here, however, it happened that the ass also found utterance. It said distinctly, and with malevolence, "Yeah. 'Twas once, methinks, year one of our blessed Lord, drunk without wine, the Sibyl thus deplored, how ill things go. Decline, decline, never sank the world so low. Rome now hath turned harlot, and harlots too. Rome's Kaiser a beast, and God hath turned Jew." I didn't say Rome's Caesar, and that's just because from playing the game Fallout, Fallout New Vegas specifically, they refer to him as Kaiser. Apparently, in their language, that's just the sound they made for the C character. They never said Caesar, but Kaiser. I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm just going off of what I thought I learned from that video game. We'll catch up. Let's head home. But that's fun. There's Zarathustra, who's always making fun of kings and such. He's surprised to have met a king who is just an equal to his own knowledge. Maybe not in every aspect. They'll probably have to learn that about each other. But the fact that these kings, they don't enjoy their station and they find it doesn't fit them. I find it funny though that Zarathustra just said he no longer has consideration for long ears, but yet he writes with such length. Could it have been longer? Oh, what a horrible thought. Hello, King. We have been stuck in a tiny room for 2 days. Consider the king, though. For his size, this is kind of a small room for himself. And he's been here for almost 400 days. I think we understand how he feels. at last, our home. Did you miss us? Our throne. So let's mash through some pages. And catch ourselves up to where we are now. Have we? Perhaps we've started the next book and did not even know it. Oh, indeed we have. Well, that's cool. It ends with Zarathustra speaking about eternity, and how he wishes to marry eternity, and that eternity would have his children. The fourth and last part. So, okay, the part we have just read so when Zarathustra went to the mountain and was wanting to fish, that was near the end, and after that he began to have his song about eternity. Then it ended. Then we pick up with the honey sacrifice. Just the one chapter of that one person coming up to meet him. It's kind of a poetic. At the beginning of the first book is when he met that individual, and here at the beginning of the last book, he's meeting again with that individual. Talk with Kings. Okay, and then I'm looking for, I think there's little numbers here. We're looking for number 2. There's the donkey. There's number 2. We've done it. We found where we've left off. And we're so much further than we thought. Well, that's cool. So let's continue to read. And it's the time. There isn't too much time left. I'll probably read another chapter or so. But then tomorrow we shall enjoy our birthday. With those rhymes of Zarathustra, the kings were delighted. The king on the right, however, said, "O Zarathustra, how it was that we set out to see thee, for thine enemies showed us thy likeness in their mirror. There look'st thou with the grimace of a devil, and sneeringly, so that we were afraid of thee. But what good did it do? Always didst thou prick us anew in heart and ear with thy sayings. When did we say at last, what doth it matter how he look? We must hear him who teacheth, ye shall love peace as a means to renew wars, and the short peace more than the long. No one ever spake such warlike words. What is good? To be brave is good. It is the good war that holloweth every cause. O Zarathustra, our fathers' blood stirred in our veins at such words. It was like the voice of spring to old wine casks. When the swords, ran among one another like red-spotted serpents. Then did our fathers become fond of life. The sun of every peace seemed to them languid and lukewarm. The long peace, however, made them ashamed. How they sighed, our fathers, when they saw on the wall brightly furbished, dried-up swords, like those they thirsted for war. For a sword thirsteth to drink blood, and sparkleth with desire. When the kings thus discoursed and talked eagerly of the happiness of their fathers, there came upon Zarathustra no little desire to mock at their eagerness, for evidently they were very peaceful kings, whom he saw before him. Kings with old and refined features, but he restrained himself. Well, said he, hither leadeth the way. There lieth the cave of Zarathustra. And this day is to have a long evening. At present, however, a cry of distress calleth me hastily away from you. It will honor my cave if kings want to sit and wait in it, but to be sure, ye will have to wait long. Well, what of that? Where doth one at present learn better to wait than at courts? And the whole virtue of kings that hath remained unto them, is it not called today ability to wait? Thus spake Zarathustra. Chapter 64. The Leech. And Zarathustra went thoughtfully on, further and lower down, through forests and past moory bottoms, as it happeneth, however, to everyone who meditateth upon hard matters. He trod thereby unawares upon a man, and lo, there spurted onto his face, all at once, a cry of pain, and 2 curses and 20 bad invectives, so that in his fright he raised a stick, and also struck the trodden one. Immediately afterwards, however, he regained his composure, and his heart laughed at the folly he had just committed. So, in a less dense way of speaking, he was just continuing on down the path, and the person who was injured screamed, and Zarathustra was just like, "You scared me," and I think he struck the man who was screaming in pain. He trod unawares upon the man, and in his fright he raised his stick and also struck the trodden one. Right, it's comedy, but how do you write comedy with such dense words? "Pardon me," said he to the trodden one, who had got up enraged and had seated himself. "Pardon me, hear first of all a parable. As a wanderer, who dreameth of remote things on a lonesome highway, runneth unawares against a sleeping dog, a dog which lieth in the sun, as both of them then start up and snap at each other like deadly enemies, those 2 beings mortally frightened. So did it happen unto us. And yet, how little was lacking for them to caress each other, that dog and that lonesome one. Are they not both lonesome ones?" "Whoever thou art," said the trodden one, still enraged, "thou treadest also too nigh me with thy parable, not only with thy foot." He's basically saying, like, okay, you just trod on me and you smacked me with a stick, and now you're going to assault me with a parable because it humors you? No, then I am then a dog. And thereupon the sitting one got up, pulled his naked arm out of the swamp, for at first he had lain outstretched on the ground, hidden and indiscernible, like those who lie in wait for swamp game. "But whatever art thou about?" called out Zarathustra in alarm, for he saw a deal of blood streaming over the naked arm. "What hath hurt thee? Hath an evil beast bit thee, thou unfortunate one?" The bleeding one laughed, still angry. "What matter is it to thee?" said he. I was about to go on. "Here am I at home and in my province. Let him question me whoever will. To adult, however, I shall hardly answer." "Thou art mistaken," said Zarathustra sympathetically, and held him fast. "Thou art mistaken. Here thou art not at home, but in my domain, and therein shall no one receive any hurt." Call me, however, and what thou wilt. I am who I must be. I call myself Zarathustra. Well, hither is the way to Zarathustra's cave. It is not far. Wilt thou not attend to thy wounds at my home? It hath gone badly with thee, thou unfortunate one, in this life. First a beast bit thee, and then man trod upon thee. When, however, the trodden one had heard the name of Zarathustra, he was transformed. Beneth unto me, he exclaimed, who preoccupieth me so much in this life as this one man, namely Zarathustra, and that one animal that liveth on blood, the leech. For the sake of the leech did I lie here by the swamp like a fisher, and already had mine outstretched arm been bitten 10 times, when there biteth a still finer leech at my blood, Zarathustra himself. O happiness, O miracle, praised be this day which enticed me into the swamp. Praised be the best, the liveliest cupping glass that at present liveth. Praised be the great conscience leech, Zarathustra. The conscience leech, okay. Thus spake the trodden one, and Zarathustra rejoiced at his words and the refined reverential style. Who art thou? Asked he, and gave him his hand. There was much to clear up and elucidate between us, but already methink pure. Clear day is dawning. I'm going to take a quick break. Compared to the first book, this seems to read much easier, other than all the this. I am the spiritually conscientious one, answered he who was asked. And in matters of the spirit, it is difficult for anyone to take it more rigorously, more restrictedly, and more severely than I, except from whom I learnt it, Zarathustra himself. Better know nothing than half know many things. Better be a fool on one's own account than a sage on other people's approbation. I go to the basis. What matter if it be small, great or small, if it be called swamp or sky? A handbreadth of basis is enough for me, if it be actually basis and ground. A handbreadth of basis thereon can one stand. In a true knowing knowledge there is nothing great and nothing small. Then thou art perhaps an expert on the leech, asked Zarathustra, and thou investigatest the leech to its ultimate basis. What, conscientious one, thou conscientious one? O Zarathustra, answered the trodden one, that would be something immense. But how could I presume to do so? That, however, of which I am master and knower, is the brain of the leech. That is my world. And it is also a world. Forgive it, however, that my pride here findeth expression, for here I have not mine equal. Therefore, said I, here am I, at home. How long have I investigated this one thing, the brain of the leech, so that here the slippery truth might no longer slip from me. Here is my domain. For the sake of this did I cast everything else aside. For the sake of this did everything else become indifferent to me, and close beside my knowledge lieth my black ignorance. My spiritual conscience requireth for me that it should be so, that I should know one thing, and not know all else. They are a loathing unto me, all the semi-spiritual, all the hazy, hovering, and visionary. Where mine honesty ceaseth, there am I blind, and want also to be blind. Where I want to know, however, there want I also to be honest, namely, severe, rigorous, restricted, cruel, and inexorable. Because thou once said, O Zarathustra, spirit is life which itself cutteth into life. that led and allured me to thy doctrine, and verily, with mine own blood have I increased mine own knowledge. As the evidence indicated, broke in Zarathustra, for still was the blood flowing down the naked arm of the conscientious one, for there had 10 leeches bitten into it. O thou strange fellow, how much doth this very evidence teach me, namely, thou thyself, and not all, perhaps, might I pour into thy rigorous ear. Well then, we part here, but I would fain find thee again. Up hither is the way to my cave. Tonight shalt thou there be my welcome guest. Fain would I also make amends to thy body for Zarathustra treading upon thee with his feet. Think about that. Just now, however, a cry of distress calleth me hastily away from thee. Thus spake Zarathustra. I guess we'll leave it there. What a strange day that he is having. He first is spoke to by this other kind of wise, knowing person who tells him that the greater man has come. And Zarathustra was frightened at that, and also there was the screaming. And Zarathustra said, I must be away, and leaves that man back at his home. And on the way, meets 2 kings with a donkey, a mule, basically carrying the load of both these kings. And so the 2 kings kind of told Zarathustra that this donkey is for this person who is greater than us. And Zarathustra might fit that role, but he said he would like to speak to them more. Invited the 2 of them back to his home. He goes on further, finally finds the person who was screaming in pain. But he wasn't screaming out of anguish because he's being attacked by some creature. He's sticking his arm in mud because he likes leeches. And he had learned from Zarathustra that of everything in the world, he despises most of the world itself. So he's just going to ignore the world, focus on just one thing, and be honest and pure and good at that one thing. And the other things of the world that he doesn't like, he can just forget them and ignore them because they just kind of muddle his thoughts. They make the world, he doesn't want to fill his brain with those things. And so he studies then instead the brain of the leech. Not the leeches themselves. He says, no, that I'm not that kind of an expert, just the brain. That's it. And so he's doing some sort of experiment, and Zarathustra said, I would like to hear more. And also sorry for walking over you. Would you come up to my house? I think. Or I don't know if he invited him up to his house then, or if he's saying, you should come up sometime. You would be my welcome guest. And I would also like to make amends for walking on you. But then he says, just now, however, a cry of distress calleth him away. So perhaps the call of distress isn't from this guy, but someone else we have yet to meet. So he's slowly collecting all these people at home. That could be the case. So the Shade has finished Monte Cristo. I don't think I commented about the ending. Well, that surely was a long story. What a cunning escape from his prison. I feel inspired. Wisdom is summed up in 2 words, wait and hope. Seems like something Zarathustra would say. That one looks pretty good. That one's short. The sleeper awakes. Ooh. Okay. That's a good big book. So I imagine, with the shade staying in, reading a book. Tomorrow, we'll be at day 20. You might say, isn't that beyond our birthday? Yes. But it doesn't prevent us from celebrating it, right? I might just come back. Keep an eye on the shade. Let's try not to go too far beyond his birthday.